August on Maple Street is Alfred Hitchcock Month. This is the 5th year I've been doing this tradition, and in the month of August, I always release Hitchcock-themed videos. So I'm really excited to be bringing this back for a 5th year, and I think the fact that I still have videos to make speaks for itself on the legacy that Alfred Hitchcock left behind. Of the 50-plus movies that Alfred Hitchcock made, only 9 performances received nominations for the Oscar, with only one winning, which was Joan Fontaine in Suspicion. Today, I want to talk about 9 performances that could have and probably should have been nominated for an Oscar. I don't have a specific order, just 9 performances. Let's get started with the most obvious one, Anthony Perkins in Psycho. I want to get this one out of the way at the beginning because we all knew it was coming. This is not only the most snubbed performance from Hitchcock's filmography, but it's just one of the biggest snubs of all time. It is an absolute shock that Anthony Perkins did not receive recognition from the Academy Awards for his psychotic and disturbing performance as Norman Bates. He's so good at playing the nice guy, and with a snap of a finger, he's able to turn on that, and I think that's what's most impressive about his performance. The key scenes for me are when he is lying. He's very fidgety, and he's stuttering on his words, and it's clear that he's lying, but I think he did the role a huge justice for making it that much more realistic. Psycho did receive one Oscar nomination, but it was for Janet Leigh in a supporting role, and I'm very glad that she got that nomination. She definitely deserved it. I just think Perkins should have been recognized as well. Next up, I'm talking about James Stewart from Rear Window. I was watching Rear Window with a friend once, and they commented on Stewart's performance saying, man, this must have been an easy paycheck for him. All he has to do is sit in a wheelchair the whole time. And I actually think it's the opposite, where he really had to earn his pay for this because yeah, he's in a wheelchair the whole time. And so the fact that he is able to keep the viewer invested throughout the entire runtime and he is only in one place, that speaks volumes about his performance and how good he was. Standout scenes for me have to do with the ending. I'm not going to spoil it here, but the final few minutes, there's a certain confrontation. That one stands out. Next up, we have Dial M for Murder, and I'm highlighting Ray Milland. This was one of the earliest Alfred Hitchcock movies I saw, and right away, I fell in love with Ray Milland's performance, enough for me to seek out more movies from his filmography. He's a villain who's doing very messed up things, but you're also deep down kind of rooting for him. And the way he delivers his lines is so casual, so simple. He makes it look so easy. And one of the reasons Dial M for Murder works as well as it does for me is because I get lost in the story. And it's thanks to Ray Milland's performance. He's very convincing. He feels like a real person. And that's exactly what a movie character should feel like. There's not necessarily a standout scene for me with Ray Milland. I just like his performance in the whole movie. I guess if I had to choose one, it's probably when he is catching up with his old friend and explaining his evil mastermind plan. I just like how easy it is for him to carry that conversation. Next movie we're talking about is Notorious, specifically Ingrid Bergman's performance. I originally had Ingrid Bergman and Claude Rains, but then I found out, oh, Claude Rains actually got nominated for Best Supporting Actor. So good on you, Claude. But Ingrid Bergman is really, really good here. She is tasked with playing a very layered role. Not only is she playing the good guy per se, but she has to pretend like she's playing the bad guy. I mean, she's on a mission. She's going undercover. She's a spy, essentially. My favorite scene with Ingrid Bergman is difficult because there are numerous ones I like. I think it's just kind of the whole movie. She gives a great performance. Next up, I have Robert Walker from Strangers on a Train. When it comes to Hitchcock villains, Antony from Strangers on a Train is not discussed that much because he's overshadowed by the obvious Norman Bates. But Robert Walker does a really good job at giving a creepy performance here. Like many of these actors, I think he does great in the whole movie, but a standout scene for me, I mean, for one, the tennis game, how creepy it is that he's just staring at Farley Granger's character. But I think what stands out to me most about his performance is how warming he is on the surface, but then as you get to know him, he becomes creepier and creepier. He seems like just an everyday guy, but he's actually this really creepy murderer, and that's what I think makes the performance as good as it is. Okay, we're not talking about Farley Granger in Strangers on a Train, but I do want to talk about him as well as John Dall in Rope. I've got a double bill here acknowledging both actors. Up to your interpretation if they would be nominated for lead or supporting. I kind of feel like they would both be nominated for supporting because James Stewart was the big name back then, even though they play a bigger role than James Stewart. I just think that's how it would have been. So for what it's worth, I'll just say both supporting performances. I could see it going either way though. Although they're both on the same side and they both have the same end goal, they are two very different characters. Farley Granger's character is very nervous and worrisome, and he's constantly scared that someone's going to catch on to their secret. Whereas John Dall is this very arrogant, confident, cocky guy who is completely convinced that their plan will work. And so seeing them work opposite of each other, the contrast between the fear of being figured out and the confidence that will never be figured out is really cool. And I think what they both do with the roles is especially impressive. Because the roles call for such specific emotions, I don't think you could pull just anyone off the street to perform these roles. The performances that John Dall and Farley Granger give, though, work really well and are partially why I love the movie so much. All right, next up, we're talking about The Wrong Man, specifically Vera Miles for a best performance by an actress in a supporting role. Vera Miles gives a pretty typical performance the first half of the movie. It's really as the movie progresses and the court case with Henry Fonda's character becomes more and more serious, you start to see her character decay, and she starts to become convinced that her husband is guilty of a crime he didn't commit, but then she's also convinced that he's innocent. And so this turmoil that she's going through really messes with her and leads her to a state of confusion. And I think that Vera Miles does a great job at portraying that. And it's especially impressive because she's not like this the whole movie. She goes from an everyday housewife to this wife that is really struggling with a situation, possibly more so than Henry Fonda is. And he's the one that's accused of the crime. So I'm giving her a shout out. I think she should have been nominated. And finally, probably a performance that's coming out of left field, but if you know me, you know I'm a big fan of this actor. It is Charles Laughton in Jamaica Inn. The performance he gives here is so zany and ridiculous and very over the top. I think it was tailor-made for Charles Laughton, especially because he was very good at playing over the top characters or giving over the top performances. The great thing about Laughton, though, is some actors give over the top performances and it drives me crazy. I've never seen a role from him where it drives me crazy. I'm always on board with the performance he's giving, no matter how much he's yelling or how much emphasis he's using in his voice. It just always works for me, and that might be my bias because I'm a big fan of him. But either way, his performance in Jamaica Inn is very underrated and very zany, and I think it deserves more attention, so I'm giving it a shout out today. It should have been nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor in a Leading Role. Let me know if you would be interested in me making a video about the 9 performances that were nominated. I think it might be fascinating to rank them, maybe, which ones I agreed with, which ones I would have changed. Because in preparation for this video, I found out there were quite a few performances that were nominated, and I'm like, where did that come from? I had no idea that was even nominated, let alone I forgot that character even existed in this movie. Stay tuned. I have a video coming out roughly every 6 days of the month, and so next video should be in the next week or so. And if you're aching for more Hitchcock content, then I have 4 other years that I've done this, so make sure to click the playlists that I link. And if you're like me, a big fan of classic Hollywood, like this video so that the algorithm can see that we want to keep classic Hollywood alive. Thank you all so much for visiting Maple Street. Have a great day.